Can you fall in love again at 73? I didn't think so until 8 months ago. My daughter threw me a birthday party last month. Small, quiet, just family. When they left, I sat with my tea and thought about Richard, about our date the next morning. And I laughed because here I was, nervous as a teenager. Welcome back. If you're here right now, I want to ask you something. A friend told me nobody would want to hear about dating from someone my age, that it's not relatable. But I think she's wrong. I think the questions we ask about love and loneliness, they don't have an age limit. So if you're curious, if you want to hear what this actually looks like, subscribe. Help me show her that these conversations matter at every stage of life. Let me back up. 2 years ago, my husband George died. 42 years together. Just like that, the house didn't feel like a house anymore. It felt like a museum. His coffee mug still in the cabinet, his reading glasses on the nightstand. I couldn't move them.
My kids kept checking on me. Too much, honestly. My daughter would call every day. "Mom, did you eat? Mom, are you getting out?" I know she meant well, but grief isn't something you can schedule away. 6 months after George died, my son dragged me to the community center. "They need help with the breakfast program," he said. I didn't want to go, but the silence in my house was starting to scare me. That's where I met Richard. He was at the coffee station, joking with a woman about how bad the coffee was. She was laughing, actually laughing, and I remember thinking, how does anyone laugh here? But Richard had this way about him. 76 years old, white hair that stuck up funny in the back, glasses that never stayed on his nose right. He smiled at everyone, even the grumpy people who never smiled back. We worked together for months before we really talked. Just good morning and can you grab more napkins kind of stuff. Then, one Tuesday, it was slow, just the two of us refilling coffee for a while. He was quiet, not his usual self. I asked if he was okay. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "Today's my wife's birthday. She loved mornings like this. Cold outside, warm inside. She would have liked it here." His voice cracked just a little on that last part. I didn't know what to say, so I told him the truth. George used to sing in the shower every morning. Terrible voice, off-key, loud, the whole thing. I used to bang on the door and tell him to stop. I had to pause because my throat got tight. Now, I'd give anything to hear it one more time. Richard nodded slowly. Didn't try to fix it, didn't say something comforting, just nodded. And somehow, that was exactly right. 3 weeks later, he asked if I wanted to grab lunch after our shift. Just lunch, a diner down the street. I said yes before I could think about it. Then I went home and had a full panic attack in my bathroom. I called my daughter. "I think I made a mistake," I told her. "What happened?" "A man asked me to lunch and I said yes, and I feel like I'm cheating on Dad." She was quiet for a second. Then she said, "Mom, Dad's gone, and he wouldn't want you eating alone forever." Simple as that. But it took me 3 more days to believe her. That first lunch was awkward. We sat across from each other at this little booth, cracked vinyl seats, ordered coffee, looked at menus. Richard kept adjusting his glasses. I kept folding and unfolding my napkin. Finally, he laughed. "We're both terrible at this, aren't we?" And just like that, it got easier. We talked for 2 hours about our kids. He has 3, I have 2. About our old jobs. He was a high school math teacher. I worked in the library for 30 years. About the people at the center who drove us crazy. He told me he'd been widowed for 4 years, that the first year he barely left his house, that his daughter told him he needed to do something or she was moving in with him. He laughed when he said it, but I could hear the weight underneath. I told him about the first time I had to go to the grocery store alone after George died, how I stood in the cereal aisle for 20 minutes because I didn't know what to buy. George always picked the cereal. 42 years he picked the cereal. And suddenly I was 69 years old, staring at boxes like I'd never seen them before. Richard reached across the table, not to hold my hand, just to tap it once, gently. The first time I cooked dinner for myself, I made enough for 4 people, he said. Habit. Stood there looking at all that food with nobody to eat it. That's when I knew. This wasn't about romance. Not yet, anyway. This was about finding someone who understood that life doesn't just move on, that grief sits in your chest every single day. But maybe you don't have to carry it alone. We've been spending time together, that's what we call it, for 8 months now. We still volunteer together on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He comes over Saturday mornings. We drink coffee on my back porch. We've been to a few movies, a few dinners, the botanical gardens twice. Last month, he held my hand for the first time. We were walking through those gardens, the same ones I used to go to with George. I almost pulled away, not because I didn't want to, because it felt like crossing a line I'd drawn in my head. But Richard's hand was warm, steady, and I thought about what my daughter said. George wouldn't want me to be alone forever. Here's what I need you to understand. This isn't a love story like the ones you see in movies. Richard isn't my soulmate. George was my soulmate. Richard is something different. He's someone who shows up, who brings me soup when I'm sick, who doesn't mind that I still talk to George sometimes, out loud, in my kitchen, like he's standing right there. Richard talks to his wife, too. Her name was Dorothy. She's been gone 4 years, and he still sets his coffee mug on the right side of the table. That was her side. We don't talk about getting married. We don't talk about moving in together. We're 2 people with full lives, kids. What we have is smaller than that. Sunday phone calls that last 10 minutes. Arguments about which bread to buy at the store. An agreement that if either of us needs space, we just say so. No games, no guilt. Last week, I had a cold. Richard brought over chicken soup in a Tupperware container. Didn't come inside, didn't hover, just left it on my porch with a note. Eat this. Feel better. See you Thursday. That's what dating looks like at 73. It's not sweeping gestures. It's showing up with soup. I know some of you listening are my age. Maybe you're thinking about this too. Maybe you lost someone, and you're wondering if it's okay to want companionship again. Let me tell you, it's okay. It doesn't mean you loved your person any less. It doesn't mean you're replacing them. It just means you're still here, still alive. And being alive means wanting connection. But let me also tell you, take your time. My friend Helen started dating 6 months after her husband died. Good for her, truly. I needed 2 years before I could even imagine it. There's no timeline for this. When you're ready, if you're ready, here's what helped me. Be honest about what you actually want.
I spent a year telling everyone I was fine alone, and some days I was, but some days I wanted someone to talk to about more than just the weather. Admitting that didn't make me desperate. It made me human. Let people in slowly. Richard didn't meet my kids for 5 months. Not because I was ashamed, because I needed to know this was real first. My daughter understood. My son, less so. But it was my choice, my pace. Don't compare. This one's hard. Every time Richard does something kind, part of my brain used to say, George would have done it differently. Maybe better, maybe worse, doesn't matter. Richard isn't George, and once I stopped comparing, I could actually see who Richard is. Protect yourself. I'm not naive. I've heard the stories about people getting taken advantage of. Richard and I keep our money completely separate. We don't talk about finances. We don't make big plans involving shared property. Trust takes time. That's wisdom, not fear. And move at whatever speed feels right to you. Not what your kids think you should do, not what your friends are doing. What feels right in your gut. Here's what I've learned. Dating at 73 isn't about finding someone to complete you. I was complete before Richard. Lonely sometimes, sad sometimes, but whole. What it's about is finding someone who respects your whole story. The 42 years with George, the kids we raised, the grief I still carry every single day. Richard knows I talk to George out loud in my kitchen. He doesn't think it's weird. He talks to Dorothy, too. We're not trying to erase our pasts. We're just making a little space for something new alongside them. Last Saturday, Richard came over with pastries from that bakery on Maple Street. We sat on my porch, not talking much, just drinking coffee, watching the birds. A cardinal landed on the fence, George's favorite bird. Richard saw me watching it. He didn't say anything about George, didn't try to distract me, didn't change the subject, just reached over and squeezed my hand, sat there with me while I watched that bird. That's all this is, really. Small moments, quiet mornings, someone who shows up and doesn't ask you to be anyone other than who you are. If you're younger, maybe 30, 40, 50, maybe you're thinking this doesn't apply to you yet, but it will. Everyone gets here eventually, if they're lucky enough. And when you do, I hope you remember something. It's not too late. It's never too late to let someone in. Not to save you, not to fix you, just to sit beside you. I'm 73 years old. I sleep in the same bed I shared with my husband for 4 decades. Some nights, I still cry. I miss George every single day. That doesn't go away. But on Thursday mornings, I wake up knowing I'll see Richard at the center, knowing he'll make some terrible joke about the coffee, knowing I'll laugh because he's right, it really is that bad. That's enough. More than enough. If this story meant something to you, I'd love it if you'd subscribe. Tell me in the comments, have you thought about companionship later in life? Have your parents or grandparents? These conversations deserve space. Let's keep them going together.